hope. It's a powerful emotion. It could sustain us through the worst, it drives us toward the best, and when we lose it, it can destroy us. Welcome back, Guardians, to another video. Kaz PhD here. Today, I'd like to talk about hope, and I'd like to talk about the witness. As always, full video transcript is included in the description below if you'd like to read quickly and move on, along with links to my other platforms. I generally consider myself a hopeful person. I try to see the good in things, and I strive to make them happen. I like people, Guardians and non-Guardians alike, and I spend most of my time as a Guardian helping where I can. I've seen the power of community, and I have seen what can be accomplished with hope. However, hope has been hard to come by these days. We've had a lot of challenges, plenty of loss, and the community has torn open wounds again and again. We've been through a lot. Even if we focus on the more modern city-age era, we've gone through the Red War, the Crusade on the Tangled Shore, we've dived deep into the powers of darkness on Europa, had our city blanketed in shadow again and again. The Vanguard has been long worried about losing Guardians to the darkness. Not just adversarially, but through corruption and temptation. Those fears have changed somewhat as we've discovered that the darkness itself is not purely evil. It is a power like the light. But that discovery led to newfound fear and doubt in the light and the traveler. No longer were they the embodiment of good, pure gods to blindly and faithfully follow. No, the light is simply a tool, just like the dark. And the traveler truly works in mysterious ways. While the travelers remain quiet, a newfound entity has been getting louder and louder. The witness. Hinted at numerous times, we finally learned about it when fighting Savathun, the Witch Queen. Since then, its presence and importance in our story, our universe, has grown. The witness created the hive. It knew the species formerly known as the Krill would be visited by the traveler, and so the witness lied to them, told them to dive deep and accept dark powers. With this power, the hive went on to wipe out countless species over tens of thousands of years, making them perhaps the greatest murderers in our universe. If light and dark are merely two sides of the same coin, then one could argue that the actions that followed would not be the blame of their power, or even the one who pushed the hive toward it. However, the witness's story does not end there. Nor did it begin there. Thanks to Asa, we learned the origins of the witness. We learned that a very long time ago, a people similar to us, who were the first to find the traveler and receive its gifts, used those gifts to usher in their own golden age. They grew, they prospered, they expanded. But that wasn't enough. They sought out purpose, and were frustrated with the gardener, their name for the traveler. They had power, but they didn't know why. They didn't know what to do with it, and they had doubts. The gardener had given them power, and could presumably take it away. The gardener's power could be used disastrously, and over long timescales and in consideration of other species, these people wondered what was the best path forward. These people saw existence as chaotic, and sought out a means of removing chaos and potential harm from existence. It discovered the Veil, the powers of the darkness, and apparently a way to combine the Veil and Traveler's powers to remake the universe. When the gardener learned of this plan, it fled, and these people were so committed to their vision that they shed, cut out, exuviated any part of their people that did not agree. This was the birth of the witness, the people who witnessed the departure of their gardener and merged themselves into a single entity. From what we've gathered, the witness has been chasing the traveler ever since. It tricked the hive, presumably to turn them into puppets or knives, who could further sharpen the universe toward its final conclusion, the final shape, as it were. We learned from Savathun that the witness even came here, to Earth, long ago, and caused the collapse, in its efforts to wipe out the traveler and any who received its gifts. Recently, Scribe Ido from the House Light Elixni delivered a parcel. It seems that she has been researching the witness, tracking down any reference to it. She started with fellow Elixni records. After the whirlwind, when the Traveler left the Elixni and they became the Fallen, they drifted through space. As ships separated and were reunited, they exchanged data. And in some of this data, records of black pyramid ships or strange radio communiques were found and logged. For those wishing to read more, I am talking about the lore book which Ido and the Cryptarchs are calling Entelechy, meaning the realization of potential, the guiding vital principle of an organism, or in some definitions, the soul. From here, I want to read and recall pieces of that research, though you can find scans of the original work in the description below. I want to explore the witness's origins and its motive. Once I have, I want to share my perspective and hopefully show you why there is hope, and why that hope is important. One of the first records in the book details a journal entry, or letter of sorts, from someone whose designation is HNW047622. In brief, it describes how HNW had been assigned a solar system, and now that they had arrived there, they realized their original terraforming plans had to change, that the system had a much greater potential. From this record, we learn a few things. That HMW was assigned and capable of terraforming worlds, that they were writing to some kind of group known as the Merciful, Penitent, Benefic, that they used the Traveler's gifts, and that this kind of terraforming was quite standard and done before. HNW was a member of the pre-witness species, and this letter indicates one purpose these people assigned themselves: terraforming and transforming worlds, at least in turning barren worlds into places of life. HNW's enthusiasm over their garden project comes across quite clearly in the letter. Later, there is a communique between HNW and another person, designated RS6243-199. Here the conversation resembles a philosophical debate, specifically on whether or not their species should intervene and assist another. HNW argues that it could do more harm than good, while RS believes doing nothing would be wrong and harmful. RS also mentions that HNW's garden was destroyed, and this is interesting as we see a shift in HNW's temperament. Gone is the enthusiasm noted before, replaced by cold practicality, a belief that only the strong deserve to survive, and that if the other species or HNW's garden deserved to survive, then they would. It would be a self-evident conclusion. The letter is full of other interesting details, such as the type of help RS is considering, specifically called the Transition Uplifting Enlightenment, which they believed would be uncomfortable for the other species, but beneficial to them. Later, RS warns of possible risks to other species as seen through their observatory. Apparently, aided by glass mines, the observatory is a means of seeing possible futures. Ido wonders if these glass mines are somehow related to the Vex, given the imagery of glass and the similar function of future scenario analysis as seen in the Vault of Glass. Later still, HNW criticizes the gardener for its silence and inaction. Why were these people gifted? Why were they not gifted guidance? Why did the gardener not push the universe toward the best possible outcome? We'll revisit these questions later, but in questioning this, HNW mentions other species, namely the Profusion Bountiful Swarm and the Conqueror's Primacy Sovereign. Curiously, those names sound like they could be assigned to the Hive and the Cabal, but this is seemingly well before either race existed, and HNW refers to the latter species receiving the gardener's gifts, which the Cabal never did. In any case, HNW argues that the gardener has offered no guidance and has not prevented other species from making catastrophic mistakes. Similar to the version of events told by Asa, the book's records go on to provide a later letter between HNW and RS. Here, HNW is writing in secret, just before the creation of the Witness. HNW describes that the Consensus, the ruling group, has destroyed the other factions of their people. HNW misses RS and wishes for them to return. The letter provides insight into the motivation of exuviation, the motivation behind the making of the witness, how it is a pursuit of perfection, how it involves cutting out pieces of itself that do not fit the goal. And then while HNW believes the end goal would be perfect, also heretically believes that the perfection will somehow be lessened without RS's presence. More on this later. A later record in the book, actually found among the Spiders collection, is a transmission from a single entity recording the end of its species. Known as the Gnosis, which translates to us as the exercise of reason, the Gnosis were also destroyed by the witness. The record indicates that the people were able to separate themselves in some way, and that the transcriber was away from home, remote, floating in a kind of noosphere, a place of mind and consciousness. Apparently, long ago, the Gnosis had encountered a nightmare, a terrible idea that wreaked havoc on their people. But it was so long ago that they had grown complacent of such threats. Then, the witness arrived and began disassembling them, reassembling them into its preferred form. The transcriber began hearing the voices of their people, a chorus becoming one, all crying out in a single voice, "Help me!" From the record. The stranger, ruined, predatory memeplex engulfed our noosphere in a moment's idle fancy. Our thought forms were atomic in comparison. We never stood a chance. As each of my people were found and taken apart and reassembled, a new voice joined the chorus. "Help me." The witness completed its task, the erasure/reassembly of the Gnosis, and turned its attention on the last, the transcriber. It then spoke to them and moved to finish the job. The record is a warning, a horrific telling of what happens when the witness decides to cull a people, to enact the final shape. Ido's research indicates that the Gnosis never encountered the Traveler, so the witness's plans involve everyone, not just those blessed by the Traveler and its gifts. Why am I telling you this? Why am I bringing this to your attention, asking you to live through these horrible things? For the same reason Ido gave the book to me, to understand the witness. When I first learned about the origin of the witness from Asa, I was disgusted. These were the first to receive the Traveler's gifts. They grew from a struggling people to a mighty civilization. But they lacked meaning? Purpose? They saw the light as a gift, but also a curse that could bring ruin and destruction? And what was their solution? To remake the universe into a single shape, a single idea, their idea, destroying and unmaking anything that challenged that design. When the Traveler wanted no part of it, they even destroyed themselves, cut away any doubt or deviation from their goal, and remade themselves into their own final shape. What a bunch of babies. Look, to what degree I can, I understand its problem. First, I understand its frustration with the Silent Traveler. That orb has been hanging over our heads for years, and except for the dreams of speakers and occasionally our own, we've never heard from it. We don't know why we were chosen. It's been revered as a god, but it could very well have its own cruel intentions. We don't know. And that's frustrating. It didn't even defend itself during the Red War until the very end, or maybe it couldn't because it was asleep? To some extent, I also understand how the Witness's idea came to be. Humanity has long struggled with power, privilege, and the possible interference of cultures, and it has usually gone extremely poorly. The Awoken debated helping us after the collapse, and both they and the Neomuni, separately but similarly, decided it would be best to leave us alone to figure things out for ourselves, and not corrupt their own way of life. So, if you have been blessed with the Traveler's gifts, and you see other species struggling, do you help? Or not? Helping may seem like the obvious choice, but it could lead to great harm in those you help. War, famine, disease, a loss of culture, all kinds of terrible results. Even among House Light, there has been debate and discussion on whether their living with us is ultimately better or worse for their people. Better because of the necessity of survival, but possibly worse as to the loss of their own culture and the potential of building a home for themselves. And that, right there, is the problem. Potential. The Witness is the ultimate denier of potential. Seeing existence as too chaotic, too unpredictable, the Witness has decided to pick one path and destroy everything else, every possibility of anything else. There is no room for doubt, negotiation, or a different perspective. There isn't even a hope of rehabilitation because the Witness carved out any part of itself that might be open to debate. It is teleologically single-minded. It's also quite stupid and selfish. When RS and HNW were debating helping the other species, did they think to ask the species if they wanted help? Does it really think the final shape is the best path for the universe? Does it pursue it out of spite, or does it truly believe it's for the best? As for its lack of purpose and lack of knowledge regarding the Traveler, Witness, join the club. I don't know why I was risen, why we were chosen, and it doesn't matter. Look, I bear no animosity toward the Traveler, not anymore. But I also don't bear it a lot of love, either. I'm thankful for the gift, for the opportunity, but I don't serve the Traveler. The Book of Unveiling speaks of an entity known as the Winnower, who argues that pruning of the universe, destruction, and entropy are necessary. Otherwise, the universe grows to a choking point. But the Witness is not the Winnower. At least, their arguments here are not the same. The Winnower argues as much for a balance as it does to justify its own existence and impulse. The Witness does not seek balance, it seeks finality. It got tired of playing the game and is now trying to flip the board. We have been granted power. While we have grown strong, we have a lot to learn. The Traveler can remake worlds, and we contain at least a sliver of that potential. The Witness's people had this capability, and before they exuviated themselves, they carried out this mission. They had purpose once upon a time, and they pursued being gardeners of their own. The Witness could have wiped us out many times, but it needed to prove itself. Ido's book and The Last Days of Kraken Mare speak of god waves and destruction rained down on us during the collapse. Destruction that was unnecessary. Compared with the Gnosis, the Witness's efforts in our direction speak of a vindictive entity, one who not only wants to win, but wants others to lose. If the Witness were so certain of its path, it would be self-evident, after all. The Witness hates chaos, and so it has chosen to carve only one predictable path. And while an unslowing, undeterred force can be frightening, it's also less capable of dealing with the uncertainty, the unpredictability of hope and potential. Over the past decade, I have worked with Guardians and non-Guardians alike for one main reason: to make things better. Protecting people and stopping monsters, all in a day's work. I do what I do because I want things to be better. I've been given gifts and I will share them with those who wish it. Why? Because I believe. Because I have hope. Remember, Guardians, in the same Book of Unveiling, Eris tells us, we must remember the value of unshakable, irrational hope. The choice to act as if we lived in a better world can create a place for that better world to exist. I do not have all the answers. I know that the road ahead, even with good intentions, will come with loss. But I have hope that things can be better, and I will keep working to make it so. And that's why we'll win. It's been a hard year for all of us. Now, as we stand on the precipice, on the very doorstep of the Traveler, I am prepared. I am hopeful, and I hope you are too. Thanks for listening. As always, I ask that you be safe, be kind, and I'll see you on the other side, Guardians. Bye now.